Durbania. I'm Durbin, and joining me today is Cody Leach. What's up, Cody?
What's going on, man? Back again, talking some aliens.
And what we're doing is we are continuing our going through the Alien franchise. Like I said earlier, this is all my first time going through this. Now, we've done Alien, 1 through Resurrection. So we've done the first 4. Now we're kind of on to the offshoot movies before we go back to the prequel Prometheus. So this was my first time ever watching Alien vs. Predator, and I had no interest in this movie whatsoever when I first saw the trailers, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. Cody, tell us about you and your channel.
All right, well, my channel is just my name, Cody Leach, Leach. You can find me by searching my name. I should be the first one that pops up, or you can just go to youtube.com/Cody Leach channel. Do a lot of the same things that Durbania does, just movie reviews, TV, video game, music reviews. I also do trailer reactions, do a lot of fun collabs like this, and sometimes I get some wacky ideas, just turn the camera and start rambling. So come over and check it out.
I'm glad I'm not alone in that, because I get a lot of wacky ideas, and I just turn on the camera, and then I post it on the internet. Internet, Cody. Oh,
exactly.
My goodness.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is fun. It is. So, Alien vs. Predator. Like I said, this came out in, 2004? And I remember when these trailers were released, and it was because at that time I had seen none of the Alien franchise and none of the Predator movies other than when I was a toddler and it scared the living snot out of me. But, so I had no real interest in this. But when I watched this movie just the other day in preparation for this video, and it was my first time ever watching it, I was pleasantly surprised overall by this movie. What are your feelings towards AVP as one who has watched and loved the Alien franchise?
The first Alien vs. Predator is fun. It's not going to blow your socks off with the story. It's not trying to be anything more than it should be. It's just a fun little slam-bang sci-fi action horror movie. You get predators, you get aliens, and they pound the snot out of each other for 90 minutes. And I mean, to a degree, if that's what you want, then AVP is the perfect movie. It's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. He's the guy who pretty much directs all the video game movies. You got the Resident Evil franchise. You got Mortal Kombat. This one, of course, is based off of a video game to a degree and a comic book series. And it's just a fun movie. If you like both of the genres of Predator or the series of Predator and Aliens, I think there's enough in this movie to grab a hold of to enjoy this movie. You know what I mean? It's just a fun time.
And like you just said, okay, so I'm new to Alien, so now I got the whole Alien side. I haven't really seen Predator since I was a toddler, so honestly, I don't really remember it except hiding in my dad's chest crying. So I don't really remember Predator that much, just a few key things that I, saw on YouTube and stuff growing up, but I haven't really seen the movie. Mm-hmm. However, I really liked the Predator characters. I liked how they were portrayed in this movie. And I thought, number one, cool dynamic that now this is in 2004 and not the super far future. So it's kind of like an origins of the company and kind of like where these discoveries began. And I thought it was a cool way to, bring in the Predator who brought a brand new element to this movie. And, I have to say what fascinated me most, and I think what had me the most intrigued and engaged in this movie, was the whole pyramid half of the story. That, Antarctica wasn't always the South Pole frozen over, and, I think that's science and true, that it wasn't always that way. It used to be a nice, lush place. But there was a pyramid there built by the three cultures, the Egyptians, and the Aztecs, and somebody else?
Yeah, and the Predators.
Yeah, and the Predators. But, it was just so cool, though, the way that they did that, the way that you had the pyramid. And then when they're going in the pyramid and they're exploring things, when you go into that chamber where there's people where the sacrifices, it's okay, that's where they lay down and the spider facehuggers come out and lay the eggs in the people. So that's the sacrifice. And so, as they're kind of going through that, and that this whole thing is a sport for the Predators, for their rite of passage to take out an alien, I don't know, the whole pyramid thing I found fascinating. I enjoyed that plot line. I enjoyed them, trying to figure out how to read the hieroglyphics. I enjoyed them digging down. Well, they didn't dig, but they found that hole through the ice. All that stuff to me was so fascinating. And I think that's kind of where I had the most fun with this, because I do love that kind of stuff. So, I mean, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I totally agree. All the stuff that they added into this for the setup and the story and kind of the battle arena that these two species are going to be duking it out on, and all of those story elements and those lore elements, and kind of going back to like the ancient Egyptian days when the predators would rule over humanity. And one thing that would probably piss Ellen Ripley off if she found out that aliens existed on Earth in like the 1900s. But all that stuff is really cool, and that's an element of this movie that should not work, because when you think, okay, Alien versus Predator, there's always going to be people and producers who are going to say, okay, don't worry about the story, don't worry about characters, just make things fight each other for 90 minutes. And we may be talking about a movie like that here very shortly. But there's the elements, the creative elements of kind of incorporating the kind of like the tribal elements of Predator, and having to defeat these monsters to become what they consider men, and kind of have slowly piece together their armor and their weapons as the more that they kill throughout this pyramid. And it's a really cool way of kind of trapping humans into the situation, because they're required to breed their prey and their the aliens that they're going to have to take out. Like, all of that stuff is so creative that people give Paul W.S. Anderson a lot of crap, but that's a really creative way to bring these two species together. And I don't think I could have come up with a more unique and cool way to bring them together. So yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying.
No, I'm in the same boat with that. So that whole pyramid thing was just so interesting to me. The other thing that was really interesting was our lead character, Alex Woods. Mm-hmm. There was once or twice in this movie where I went, Ellen Ripley, eat your heart out. And I don't mean that as an insult to Ellen Ripley, because she's one of the coolest characters ever, but Alex Woods, not only does she find herself caught up in the midst of this, not only is she the smartest person in this whole situation, she befriends a predator who then marks her as one of the tribe. So basically she befriends the race of predators. She kills an alien with a spear, and together she and a predator make sure the aliens don't make it to the surface or past Antarctica. And to me, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the way, like, I mean, no lines there because the predator doesn't talk, but just watching how these two bonded and what connected them in the fight they had against that one alien in that room, I don't know. I just thought all of that was so incredibly interesting to me. So Alex Woods, to me, was just a very strong character, and I really liked her in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I like the actress, Sana Lathan, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I like that character a lot. She's probably really the only character that I do like in this movie, but we'll get more into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything, the last like 15, 20 minutes of this movie is awesome. Like, as soon as she starts teaming up with the Predator to take out the rest of the xenomorphs, all of that is awesome start to finish. How he kind of makeshift this shield for her with a xenomorph's head, and makes a spear with its tail.
Awesome.
Like, that's really, again, creativity. And yeah, she gets marked, so she's like part of the tribe. All that stuff is awesome. And speaking on the predators too, I love there's a lot of elements which I know you're probably not too familiar with because you say you haven't seen the movies preceding this one. There's a lot of elements to like the Predator lore that started in this movie. Like the whole thing about like you get all the different armored predators behind them, which I think in the very end of Predator 2 they showed that for a second. But this is the first one where you actually see like this tribe of predators and kind of how they all work together, and there's probably different ranks and how they kind of beef themselves up to be part of whatever the next rank they're trying to get to. And then you have the whole element about like the ancient Aztecs and all that kind of stuff. Everything that they add to the Predator lore in this, I loved. As far as the xenomorphs, I liked like the real creative stuff that they used. Like whenever the queen is brought up out of the ice and she starts to thaw, and then all of a sudden she gets zapped to start laying eggs, and then the conveyor belts are taking the eggs into the sacrificial chamber. That entire process is just fascinating.
It was. And so already those face huggers are creepy. Mm-hmm. And which alien movie was it where all those people wake up in those tubes and those things jump on their face and lay eggs in them? Was that the
Resurrection? Yeah, when they were all in those tubes and nothing could move but their face. Yeah.
And that's kind of what it reminded me of, but what made it more freaky is the fact that, they said that lore is people gave themselves up to that. They literally willfully laid down on the tables next to those eggs and let the stupid face huggers, wrap themselves around them. And, I think that just added a whole other dimension of fear to the face huggers there because it was just... to me, it just added a whole nother element of, I hate those stupid things. Those things are awful. Yeah. And then, when those people are trapped in the sacrificial room and the eggs are brought up, crap.
I love
it's just another great scene with
I love that scene. I love the two visuals in that scene. Whenever the eggs start to kind of peel open and you see the little hands start to come up like they're getting ready to jump out, and then all three of them jump and it slows down and they're all going in different directions towards a different human. That's an awesome shot.
Yep. Oh yeah. And back to good alien effects. I mean, we're now in 2004, probably the time where we could start arguing we started putting way too much CGI in movies. But whatever they did in this one, I thought overall it looked really good. There was no part where I looked at this and went, that is way too much CGI or this or that. I felt like the Predator was mostly practical effects from what I remember from the Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator movie. Like, it looked like how I remembered it. It didn't look overly CGI'd, and it looked really cool. And I felt the same thing about the Alien. Like, when they did wide shots, I thought the CGI of that was pretty cool. And when they did close-ups, it felt like what they used in the original movie. So, I thought the effects were actually pretty awesome with this movie.
They are, I agree. The practical effects were used just as well as they were in all the movies except for 3. And the digital effects, the few that we have in this, are pulled off really well too. Like whenever the Queen starts taking off, whenever she first gets released, and all that looks really good. And like you said, there's no scene where it's like, oh god, they did a bad job with that. And I love the scenes whenever the aliens and the predators are actually killing each other. Like they found some really cool ways to actually make those species battle. Like my favorite shot is probably when the one predator gets the tail through his chest and he's lifted up, and the alien just brings him around face to face and just snarls at him. Like those cool little moments like that. You're like, yes, that is what I came here for.
Oh yeah. You got some brutal moments where the aliens really killed those predators, but then you got also some great moments where those predators took out those aliens.
Yeah.
So I feel like the predators are superior. Like they are the ones that are stronger, and they're the ones that can take out the aliens. But those aliens don't take it lying down, and it shows that they're not weak either. And so
they have strength in numbers.
Yes, and I felt like even though the predators overall were stronger and could take out the aliens pretty well, like it felt like in this movie, in this confined space of this pyramid, they were pretty evenly matched, which actually added to the tension, because at first I didn't know, do I want the aliens or predators to win? But you know, when she teams up with that predator, man, I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, they do a good job at kind of taking one side in this one, where you know it's kind of like it's a free-for-all for the majority of the movie. You know, you see predators killing humans, so okay, they're bad. And then you see aliens killing humans, okay, they're bad. And then you see the predators and the aliens fighting with each other. And then towards the last 15 minutes of this movie, the movie makes a decision and says, okay, well, the predator are who we are teaming up with. That is our chosen side to win. And now the aliens are your enemies. And it's a cool little spin to take in the last act of the movie. Otherwise, you wouldn't really know who to root for. And the predators are just awesome. They're just cool. Even though they're evil and they murder humans and rip their spines out and everything like that, it's hard not to root for them. So, I mean,
well, having not seen those other Predator movies and only seeing really the predators in Alien vs. Predator, I really liked them. Like, I thought they were a cool tribe or race of aliens there, and it was just awesome. I don't know. I had so much fun with that. And then, what's that guy's name? Maxwell, who was also in Resident Evil. That poor guy in both movies gets killed by being cubed up. In Resident Evil, it was the lasers that were in that cube shape that chopped him up. In this one, it was that net that just, I guess, cuts right through you and cubed him up. And I was like, oh, this poor guy.
Speaking of that net, I love the effect that they have on the one xenomorph who kind of becomes like the alpha and the leader whenever he was the one who was trapped in that net, and it kind of marked his skull with those green stripes. I thought that was a really cool way to kind of mark your alpha, because they all look the same. And whenever you see him in that neon green, you're like, oh, that's the badass one.
Yep. And they did the same thing with the Predator. When he killed the one alien, he squeezed the blood on his forehead and he squeezed the blood on his helmet, which was his tribal mark of, I conquered this alien. So they did unique ways of marking like the aliens that they wanted you to pay attention to and get attached to. So I thought like that was clever. It was kind of like the Force Awakens, where you know he gets the blood on his helmet in the beginning, so you know this is the stormtrooper to watch. And I thought it was very creative how they did that in this one.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of people to pay attention to and get attached to, what did you think about our other human characters?
Well, you know, honestly, Wayland, am I saying his name right? The rich guy?
Charles Bishop Wayland.
Yes. To me, he wasn't the typical pompous rich guy, I know everything, that a lot of the rich guys that end up in this movie are. he seemed like, he's already dying, so what he wanted was this one last adventure. And I didn't feel like there's anything about him that was overly selfish or whatever, and the fact that he gave himself up in the middle of the movie to save the other two, I actually liked him. Like, I thought he was not my favorite character, but he was just not that typical take on the rich guy who's funding this, and everything has to be done his way, and because it has to be done his way, we're all dying. It was like genuine, like Indiana Jones, this is something to explore, we're going to explore it, oh crap, this was a huge mistake, and they all kind of felt that at the same time. I don't know, Waylon, I ended up liking him.
Yeah, I liked him. He's a positive and a negative for me. A positive as far as his character in this movie, and a negative as far as where he lies in the lore of these movies, because it's the same actor who played Bishop in Aliens. It's Lance Henriksen, and he also showed up at the end of Alien 3. And this movie doesn't really set out like, okay, this is totally separate. This has nothing to do with the other movies. It's clearly a precursor to that franchise.
Yeah.
So when he shows up, I'm like, okay, so who is the Bishop that we got in Alien 3? Because he was human, so is that like reincarnated again? Or it created a weird question for me there.
I didn't even notice that was Bishop. How bad is that? Like, you're saying it, I'm just now going, oh my gosh, it was! I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, exactly. So it just created some questions for me. I'm like, okay, well then where does that fit with the guy we got in Alien 3? Unless this is just saying that Alien 3 never existed, and then I'm totally cool with that. But I liked him, and I love seeing Lance Henriksen in pretty much anything. And I love, just like you said, all of his character twerks about him are cool. And I love the scene whenever he gets ready to fight that Predator, even though he knows he's going to die. And the Predator picks him up, and he can see the disease inside of him. So he sets him down. And that's another cool element of the Predator, is like he knows weakness. And he's like, okay, you get a break, dude, because I know you're going to die soon anyway. And he goes to somebody else, but then he lights him on fire. And he's like, oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a great scene. As far as the other human characters, honestly, I don't really attach or remember all of them. A lot of them get taken out very quickly as soon as they get into the pyramid.
Yeah, it's true. The only other one I remember, and I don't remember his name, was like the interpreter, like that the guy with the accent who, was an archaeologist and could read those ancient languages, and so he was interpreting what was going on. I thought he was pretty cool, and I felt like he was just really there to drive a narrative, to help us understand the Predator and kind of what's going on. And when we didn't need that anymore, he died. Yeah,
pretty much. The only character I always remember, and it's just because of the reason I'm about to give, is the guy who gets killed inside the tunnel, and he's like, you ugly son of a... And because he's the guy... He's one of the main characters in Sons of Anarchy. He plays Chibs. But that also brings me to one of my negatives. Unless you have some more positives to give, I'll go ahead and start talking about those.
I don't think I have any more. You're good.
Okay, so aside from the fact that a lot of the characters I don't care about, except for the main character and Lance Henriksen, because Lance Henriksen is the man, I cannot stand how many one-liners that they steal from the original Predator and they just use them over and over again in this movie. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger has that classic line at the end of the first Predator when he calls the Predator an ugly MFer. And then it's one of the big moments and the big taglines from that movie. And they use it twice in this movie. They use it in the tunnel scene, and they use it at the very end when Sana Lathan shoots the last alien. She's like, you one ugly mother, and it just shoots him. And it makes me roll my eyes whenever the references are too on the nose. So that drives me nuts as a Predator fan. Aside from that, I can't stand that this movie is PG-13. That always bugs the hell out of me when I watch this, because even when you watch the unrated edition on Blu-ray, it's still very tame. And you got the entire franchise of Alien, they're all rated R. You got the entire franchise of Predator, they're all rated R. And then they get together, and it's very tame PG-13. I forgot how many jump-away kills they have in this movie. Every time somebody's about to get sliced or stabbed, or their head exploded by the little plasma caster, it zooms in on their face and then it cuts away. So you get to see like a splash of blood on a wall that's across the room on a couple of shots. But the PG-13 rating drives me nuts in this because I think it's a big missed opportunity. They kind of rectify that in Requiem, which we'll get into, but to many more problems. But those are the main two that always bug me. And that's really it as far as this movie. I enjoy everything else, but it's just, the human characters are weak, even though they're not the main focus of the movie. The constant references to Predator and the PG-13 rating.
It is interesting as you bring that up, because coming from my perspective, this is my first time ever going through this franchise. So, I'm entering this entire franchise with no attachments or predispositions or anything like that. So my only biggest negative with this movie is, it's no Alien and no aliens. But other than that, it's hard for me to point out things that I was really disappointed with, because I went into this movie with kind of lower expectations, like, it's just an offshoot, you know, it's just kind of a movie made for fun or whatever, and so I went in with kind of lowered expectations and ended up having a lot more fun with this movie than I thought I was going to have, and had a whole lot of fun with the pyramid thing. What you're saying with the PG-13 thing, it does make sense to me, though. Like, I feel like if I had more time attached to this franchise, and, you know, the R rating giving it the freedom to be more scary, to be more gruesome, to be more what Alien and Aliens was, and then to come in here with the frustration of, why did you put those limits on it? I mean, I'd probably feel different, probably, you know, in the same shoes, but since I don't enter this with that many attachments like that, I kind of just enjoyed it for what it was. I thought, like, wow, this is way funner than I thought it was going to be, which unfortunately raised my expectations greatly for Alien vs. Predator. or the second one,
yeah,
Requiem.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, Requiem.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, exactly. Despite the flaws, it is a very fun movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to... It's one of those movies that you can just throw on because you want something, kind of like some of the later Underworld movies. You just want something fun kind of in the background.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it might sound like a negative, but it's really not if you're looking for that kind of a movie. You could put this movie in, pay attention to it a little bit here and there. You're not going to miss too much of the story. You're going to miss a lot of lore, but it's just a fun little, you know, species versus species movie, and that's exactly what this movie should be. It shouldn't have been anything grand or, you know, really in-depth or anything like that. It's just exactly what you want it to be. Aliens versus Predator.
Yep. So, Cody, in the end, what is your rating for this?
I mean, my rating for AVP, it's a little bit higher on the scale than Alien Resurrection, even though it's the same rating, but I would say see it on Netflix. I don't think it's necessarily something that, like, you absolutely have to have this in your collection. But it's just a fun movie. If you're sitting around and you want to watch some Aliens or you want to watch some Predators, pop it on, and I guarantee that there's no way that you can walk away like feeling like you wasted 90 minutes.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give this movie a solid B, because I did enjoy it. I don't feel like I need to go watch it again, like right now. Like, I don't feel like I need to go do that. But I feel about this as I felt about Underworld. I love the Underworld franchise, and I recognize everything bad and stupid about Underworld, but for me, it's fun. And I love to pop that into the Blu-ray player. Like, you know, if I just can't think of anything to watch and I just want to watch, like, some fun, you know, action and things like that, I love to pop in movies like Underworld. And I think this movie had some fun with the pyramids. It had fun with those ancient cultures. It had fun with the alien lore and with the Predator lore. And, you know, I love that kind of stuff. So I'm giving this movie a solid B because I'm watching it and it just felt like a solid B, you know, sci-fi horror film. And I just had fun with it. Like you said, it's something I could pop in on Netflix or just pop in the Blu-ray player and kind of have fun with. I'm not in a rush to go out and buy it, but it's something that I could see myself having, so...
There you go.
Alright, so if you saw Alien vs. Predator, what are your thoughts and feelings towards this one? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button, become a Durbanian, and click the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you're notified the moment I drop new videos. And check out Cody Leach's channel. Over there on his channel right now, you can see our Alien vs. Predator Requiem review. So that's exciting. You could check out that review, see our thoughts on that, and make sure you just check out Cody's channel because he's got plenty of awesome things on there. Cody, tell them why they should subscribe.
Because it's awesome. Now come over to Cody Leach. Like I said, just search my name. I should be the first person who's on the list. And you could also just go to youtube.com/Cody Leach channel. And like Durbin said, we're going to be dropping AVP Requiem immediately when you see this video on my channel. And we also have the rest of our Alien review series up as well. 1 through Resurrection. Odd numbers being on the Durbania and even numbers being on my channel. So come check all that out. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below on all these movies. And click that subscribe button on the way out.
That's right. So hit subscribe on Cody's channel, hit subscribe on my channel, and just know next week, I think we got one more. One more. That's Prometheus, and then we are ready for Alien Covenant. So I'm interested. I've seen Prometheus one time, and I'm interested to go back after now having these experiences. So thank you so much for checking out this video. Like and share, and thank you for checking out Durbania.